Welcome to another live stream, guys. Bitcoin getting a rejection perfectly off that 90K resistance level I mapped out on yesterday's live stream on the 4-hour chart. Many hopium addicts call it manipulation. I call it resistance, to each their own. But that being said, what's next for Bitcoin? I did mention a couple of days ago that I thought 84K and possibly even a little lower is a very realistic possibility. And I still stand by that same opinion, just like I mentioned yesterday. We're very likely to climb towards 90K, retest resistance, then start trending back down towards that target. After all, this is a very large range, you guys, and they can take some time to play out. Honestly, nothing out of the ordinary here from a very basic market structure perspective, if you ask me. In fact, we even had that confluence with the MDX Trendmaster. I had mentioned that we had this dark blue line up here really close to that 90K level. So just a little bit of added confluence there for us. So, I had several reasons why I was looking at resistance at that level. But for the most part, keeping it as simple as I can, you guys, I actually want to clean this up. So I'm going to remove these fibs here. But basically, you can still see my resistance levels. I'm actually only going to keep the swing fail zone here because that's what I actually ended up shorting. But I want to just look at this for very basic market structure. And I'm talking just since where we topped out so far on this trend, just looking at this swing for what it is. Basically, this was our last set of low and lower lows. I mentioned yesterday if we broke this, or that we did break it, but I don't consider that a break of structure of any kind because we never had another lower low here before doing that. So that actually changes things. The fact that we had this low, this lower low, that confirmed this as my lower high on the trend. And that's where we ended up getting into that pocket, basically the swing fail zone, right? Leaving a little bit of wiggle room for those liquidity grabs, those swing fails, the failed auctions. I talk about them all the time. Just notice how we went up there and just got punished to the downside just as quickly as we got up there, basically. Some people were asking how I ended up catching this. Guys, I actually laid it out in the VIP Telegram as well when I was taking my position live. Basically, I was looking at the 5-minute chart. We were testing that resistance level for quite a while. It was my 4-hour resistance level. But looking at it on the 5-minute, we actually had about 35 minutes of testing that level and just getting rejected there, just getting 5-minute wicks up to that level, basically. And then, it just looked like weakness. So I ended up taking my position before the 4-hour closed. I was initially looking at the 4-hour, but the fact the 5-minute was getting my rejection there, I pulled the trigger on that and then just keeping my VIPs up to date, right? Laid out the targets. Even mentioned when I closed some of it a little bit early just because of how volatile it was, but very close to my first target and then nailed my second target. Absolutely beautiful. So guys, if for those of you who are interested in seeing way more examples, how I'm looking at market structure, how I'm pulling fibs, some of my favorite trade strategies and setups and so on, my partners at BloFin are currently running this promo for my followers until December 23rd. So be sure to scan the QR code on the screen and sign up to the no KYC exchange I've been personally trading on for well over a year now. This will get you the current promo as well as future promos, and as well free access into my VIP Telegram where I'm sharing signals, much like that beautiful short that we caught this morning. And in fact, the short that I'm still in from up higher at 92,461, I still have about 20% of that position running as well. Letting the runners run, but paying myself along the way. So what's next for Bitcoin here, you guys? Basically, there's a couple of things. Let's zoom right into the 5-minute because I have told you already on the 4-hour, I thought it was quite likely we end up dropping down towards this 84K level. And that's really just the start of my support, right? That would be basically the 786 would be around 83.6K. The 886 is about 82.2. And then the swing fail zones basically from 80.5 down towards 78.5. So there is potential support below us. It's just that we're not quite at my ideal levels yet. And when we do get to that 84K, well, if and when we get there, just remember that's just the start of support. So we could still go lower than that. And that's if we end up getting some sort of support from that level, right? I mean, it will largely depend on if the market wants to get sent lower and carry on the downtrend from here, or if we're going to chop around sideways or recover from here, right? So potential support, but that doesn't mean that the downtrend is necessarily over. There's been a vicious downtrend for about 8 weeks now. So zooming into the 5-minute chart here, once again, that's just that same swing fail pocket. I'm going to remove that. So as far as how structure looks right now, basically, I would be looking at it as, hey, you know what? We lost this bit of structure here. And although it's very possible that we get some sort of a bounce, the fact that we lost that level, I would be now looking for basically my next short opportunity that I see right now from an obvious perspective, would be basically something like this. Just basically, that's if we get a big bounce, right? I don't want to FOMO into new short positions now that we've already got, a few of my take profits on the short that I took earlier. Now that we're at potential support, I'd rather be looking at, paying myself and reducing risk and that sort of thing, and planning for the next trade, because I would love to get into another short position if given the opportunity. And like I said, I think a fib like this actually makes a lot of sense, just because this is obviously where we add, just like I always say, we have a high, higher low. The fact that we lost that little bit of structure on that uptrend, even if you don't like that kind of micro stuff, whatever, we've lost so many support levels, right? So either way, this is a confirmed pivot point on the 5-minute trend. And if we end up bouncing, I don't want to get FOMO at resistance levels, right? I would rather be a seller at resistance. Just like I've been buying at support levels on the way down, right? Buying support, whether or not I'm taking bullish positions, I'm still treating them as buy levels by de-risking and taking profits on my shorts. But when we get back up towards resistance, if we get a bounce from here, I would be interested in basically starting to build shorts from 89.2K up to about 91.1K. And that would be invalidated for me at about 91.3K, just leaving a little wiggle room there. But if we get some sort of a bounce, that's kind of what I'm looking at right now. Also, if I bring up the MDX Trendmaster on the 5-minute chart here, I did mention this level of support earlier. That's just another bit of confluence brought to my attention by this indicator, the fact that this is where we got our pivot and then we got that buy signal, that recent buy signal. We have lost support of that buy signal. So again, if we do get some sort of a bounce, if we do get a new buy signal here, if we end up reclaiming this blue line, we end up printing a buy signal, it will very likely be a lower buy signal, just warning that the trend is shifting to the downside there, which is another reason why I would be looking at, shorting this potential level if we end up getting there, right? So MDX ALGO retail long short ratio here. You can see basically as soon as retail started building longs, we dropped to the downside there. Currently still seeing longs climb a little bit, but yeah, basically the market is still just very long heavy. The only way to look at it right now, I actually want to zoom out to the daily chart. If I zoom out to the daily chart, it does look like retail's trying to build a little bit of shorts. So we'll have to see if retail continues to build shorts and we see this just obviously climbing. Yeah, I think at that point, then the price would end up climbing as well, just fighting against retail, right? Market makers using them as liquidity, basically. But at this point, I mean, just like I just said on the 1 hour there, it's just obvious that the market in general is willing to be long heavy. And as long as retail is willing to get wrecked over and over by longing into resistance every time we get a little bounce, as long as they're willing to do that, the market is going to continue trending to the downside. And just until they get all that liquidity. And then when retail has had enough of that and they start FOMOing into shorts on a more aggressive long-term scale, that's when we can actually get a nice climb to the upside. Just to take a look at a few altcoins here real quick. And guys, if you do appreciate my level-headed approach and just looking at market structure for what it is, please do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, because this channel is for traders. I'm not here for the fluff, for the warm, cozy, happy feeling of we're going straight to the moon. None of that kind of stuff. I'm just looking at this from a trader's perspective. Yes, I treat my investments and my trading very differently, but I have no problem trading the the downside if I feel like there's setups there, right? Just like the upside. It's not that I'm a perma bear. It's not that I'm a perma bull either. I'm just a level-headed trader. So if you do appreciate that and you love looking at charts for what they are, do me a favor, hit that like and subscribe, as I mentioned. With that, guys, just taking a look at AVAX, I actually wanted to bring a few altcoins to your attention because I know I mentioned basically after we got those crazy wicks on, was it October 10th? Yeah, October 10th. Everyone remembers that day when there was huge liquidations, especially in the altcoin market. But when we got that bounce, so many people were claiming that that's a scam wick. Scam wicks, although they do happen for the most part, they seem like copium to me that, you know, people at that point are like, yeah, we just have to go to the upside now. So often in these markets, when you get those large wicks like that, it's actually a warning sign that that's where the market is going to trend to. And I know I've mentioned this on many public streams, you know, much earlier. Well, basically after we had that, and I was saying that it's very possible a lot of altcoins end up filling those wicks. And so far, that's exactly what's happening, right? Take AVAX, for example, after we got that wick. Notice that we're just in a much more controlled manner. We are trending towards that wick fill. We don't necessarily have to fill the entire thing. We could blow right past that level as well. But just understand that so often when you get those large wicks that it's a bit of an early warning sign, and you can use that to your advantage, right? Like I've used that as part of trading strategies before. Injective, it looks the exact same, right? We have that same wick. I don't know, I'm not in a position or anything, but just looking at this for what it is right now, same thing, right? We got that big wick that same day, and we've just been slowly trending down towards that level. Even looking at the more micro structure here, just notice that we still have this downtrend. The fact that this was our last low and we have now set a lower low, that confirmed this as our lower high on the trend. And notice where we got rejected. I guess here, actually, I can go to that wick. That would be the exact highest point between the two. But yeah, so we just have, even on the micro scale here, we still have a downtrend that's pushing us towards that wick fill at this point. Hype, actually very similar. You know, I took a stab at a long on Hype just because I saw a potential support level the other day. And it ended up being a losing trade. That's totally fine. But at this point, it once again looks like we're really trying to just end up trading down towards that wick, right? Everyone's calling these scam wicks, but eventually we go and fill most of that. And, you know, just like AVAX and Injective, Hype looks very similar. The same type of structure. We have the same wick that we're getting close to filling. We have the same downtrend on the 4 hour. So a lot of altcoins looking very similar. So guys, I really hope that you guys are surviving in this crazy market volatility. Those of you guys who are, you know, in these live streams every day, especially those of you guys in my Telegram, you should be hopefully crushing it, but absolutely surviving it, you know, worst case scenario, because guys, all of these moves, I mean, none of these large moves have really come out of nowhere. We've actually been, you know, eyeing up most of these major reversal zones since the downtrend started about 8 weeks ago. So thumbs up if you guys do appreciate my level-headed approach and just how, I guess I'm just trying to be the voice of reason in this market that is full of crazy emotions, right? And just looking at market structure for what it is. It's not that I'm doing anything special, you guys. I'm just literally keeping my analysis very simple. And that's something that a lot of people have a hard time with, but you can see that time and time again how effective that very simple market structure is, looking for those Fibonacci pullbacks. Really nothing too fancy, just keeping it simple. So let me know in the chat how you are all doing, my friends. Gravy Train, great trade. Did you end up taking that one? First time entered a trade right before I sent out the telegram. Right on. That's fantastic. See, and that's what I like to hear, because I don't want people just blindly taking my signals, right? No matter how good of a trader I think that somebody is, I won't blindly take their trade unless I agree with it. But, you know, that being said, if you are catching on to the way I'm trading and able to spot those ahead of time and that sort of thing, I absolutely love to hear that. That's such a great thing to hear. So thank you for that. Still have 30% running with the stop in a small profit as well. Right on. I have about 50% running yet on that one and about 20% on the one from a lot higher. Dan Rab, good to see you here. Thanks for being here once again, my friend. Thoughts on FET, Arrow, and Cake? You sound like someone who may be into automated trading. Yes, let me... Actually, I am just going to stay on this chart. Let me check FET. So FET, I think, you know, basically every altcoin right now just really looks like it wants to fill a gap, or fill a wick, rather. There is obviously this potential support right here. Because technically we would have broke this micro downtrend and then coming back to support right here. So it's possible we get some sort of a bounce, but again, I just, you know, it doesn't look bullish. Not that support ever does until hindsight, obviously. But yeah, I still think it could go a little bit lower. Even if it went into this swing fail pocket, that would actually fill the majority of this wick again. So not all hope is lost, but I can't say I'm overly bullish on it. Let's see, maybe the 1 hour, maybe the trend master is flip. Oh no, I'm going to assume it is printing lower sell signals if I were a betting man, and I definitely am. Yeah, we have a big series of lower trending sell signals absolutely destroying this trend. So yeah, I don't know. Doesn't look too good yet. I would want to see some sort of bullish confirmations on some indicators on some lower time frames, if nothing else. Arrow. Arrow, yeah, that's a nasty downtrend on the 1 hour as well. Once again, setting those lower sell signals as a big warning from the MDX trend master. And ever since then, obviously, we're just still printing a downtrend here. We had a lower high here when we ended up losing these levels, printed that lower high, end up printing this as a lower high. And even on the smaller time frame now, if we really zoom in and micro analyze it, just the fact that we've had this little bounce, that little green doji there, and we've gone lower, this is my confirmed micro lower high on the trend. So still doesn't look overly bullish to me, I would say. Okay. I know I have a trading bot that actually nailed a short on Cake recently. As far as, yeah, same thing, right? MDX Trendmaster, this is actually on the 4 hour, but we had those beautiful printing lower sell signals, just a big warning that the trend was, well, going to continue to the downside, basically. Because look where these started printing, right? We've had lower trending sell signals since back here at above $3. And we are currently, well, basically cut in half and still printing those lower sell signals on the 4 hour. And then obviously the same thing, right? The same wick from October 10th that we may end up filling. We may not, but so far the trend is still to the downside, I would say. Anyways, my friends, I think that's about all I wanted to go over today. Just a few levels on my radar, take a look at a few altcoins and that sort of thing. And also just looking at the volatility today for what it is, because so many people are looking for hindsight reasons why they might have got wrecked on something like that. Again, just understand that was very basic market structure. And that's exactly why I keep it simple. It's just that really getting a strong understanding of those lower lows, confirming lower highs in a trend, just like higher highs, confirming higher lows on a trend. That market structure alone goes such a far ways in the game of trading. And I think recently, you know, those of you in my Telegram, we have been proving that. And even the fact that you guys are looking at the same setups as me now, that is absolutely fantastic to see. So just a reminder, guys, for those of you who are interested in, you know, learning more of my strategies and, you know, just getting more of my thoughts on the market in general, do yourselves a favor, scan the QR code on the screen, to get into my Telegram channel, where I give plenty of warnings and just looking at structure for what it is. And like I said, my partners at BloFin currently giving my followers this special promo until December 23rd. So if that is something that interests you, that will also get you into my VIP. So with that, thank you so much for being here with me once again, my friends. Love seeing you guys here day in and day out. So couldn't appreciate you guys more. And with that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. And I'm out. Peace out.